she's like, so the trainer has told me, like, you had ankle problems last year. We don't want to tape a lot, like waste time and meets, and we don't want to have like these issues. So I'm gonna have you meet with her downstairs, and you can go set up an appointment to get a cortisone shot. I was like, a cortisone shot? Like, that's kind of serious.
And that's not a coach's decision. Iowa State canceled a meet and then their entire season. We will tell you what we know. The beloved Risa Perez is here to talk about her college career because she had a crazy experience. Today is February 9th, 2026, and welcome to the #1 gymnastics podcast in the galaxy. I'm Jessica. Spencer's out this week, but he'll be back for fantasy on Wednesday and college and cocktails on Friday, where we are going to talk about the Oklahoma-Florida meet and, of course, the Olympic opening ceremonies and the Bad Bunny concert. But until then, let's talk about what we know. Why did Iowa State cancel the rest of their season? Well, we talked about what we knew on College and Cocktails, and that's where you get the latest news when it happens, and they canceled their meet on Thursday. So here's what we talked about on College and Cocktails. Okay, before we get to that, I want to talk about what happened with Iowa, and I want to know your thoughts on this, Ondine, because yesterday, Iowa was supposed to have a meet last night, and Iowa State, sorry. Oof, yeah. That's the worst mistake you can make. So Iowa State, the day before their meet, like, I don't know, 30 hours before the meet was supposed to happen, they canceled their meet, and they're the host team. So this is extremely rare, but it's not unprecedented. You remember, Spencer, the infamous UCLA-Stanford norovirus meet cancellation.
I do, yeah.
Where all of UCLA, including the coaches, had norovirus, and they had to turn their poop in to the health department.
We don't need to hear
because the public health has to be notified if there's norovirus. So they had to like drive their samples in.
Jessica, we have guests.
Well, Ondine, well, sometimes we do have functional government in the United States, and this is one of the examples because they notify everybody they might be exposed. So yeah, it was serious, but they had no one, right? But like, who competed last week with one gymnast? Gustav?
Well, Wilberforce has, they went to Eastern Michigan. They only had 2 people who could go on bars. So they were just like, okay, we'll do this meet. Well, we're not going to get a high score. We just have 2 people who can safely go on bars. So that's what we'll do. Do you remember the meet when most of the Arizona team got suspended? And their coach was like, that's what happens when you break rules.
Yeah.
We're going to compete 2 people on vault. Hope you learned your lesson.
Which I appreciate, a coach that's like, yeah, they all arrived drunk, still drunk to practice and reeking of alcohol or whatever. I'm making that up, but like, I mean, that's what I imagine everyone gets suspended
that has happened before.
It's definitely happened. So yeah, it's just very unusual. So West Virginia are halfway to the meet. They are at O'Hare in Chicago. Get off the plane and get a message that the meet has been canceled. And they're like, we have to stop our luggage from continuing on to Iowa. We have to get everything. We have to find out. So NIU accommodated them and added them to their meet, which was great. The NCAA approved it quickly. I don't know if you guys noticed on their meet flyer that they made about how they did in the meet, the graphic designer or whoever, I don't know who did this. Maybe it was the team asked for this, maybe the coach. Maybe nobody, but in the very bottom corner, I had to zoom so far in to see this. There's a little tiny dot, looks like a black dot, but if you zoom in, it says Iowa State and it's crossed out. They're just like, well, didn't compete against them, but here's where we did compete. But it's such a little tiny, like, thanks you guys. If you want to listen to the rest of that episode, and we have special guest Ondine Achampong from Cal there and British legend, of course. I'll link it in the show notes so you can listen to the whole thing. So then after we recorded that on Sunday, the 8th, Iowa State canceled their entire season. Senior Athletics Director Shamarie Brown said in a statement, quote, after careful and thoughtful review of the program over the last week, it became apparent that we do not have enough student athletes available to safely compete, and thus have made the painful decision to cancel the remainder of our gymnastics season. The health, safety, and overall welfare of our student athletes is paramount, and it is our responsibility to ensure that they are able to safely train and compete at the highest level, end quote. Alumni have written to the administration and demanded answers and are emphasizing they want to support the athletes. Rumors are all over the place, from an entire class got suspended. There was an athlete walkout in protest of what? We will have to wait and see if that's rumor, if that's true. Either way, it's extremely rare for a season to be canceled outside of a worldwide pandemic, for example. Many fear this drastic step from the Iowa State administration signals a fuck around and find out message to the athletes that they will cut gymnastics rather than being blackmailed by the students' demands. And we don't even know if they're student demands. But it's just like the idea that there aren't, out of every athlete on the team, that there's no one that can compete. That doesn't make sense. It's not, there would have had to be like, were they, I mean, maybe it does if they were all in like a bus accident at the same time and had season ending injuries. Something doesn't seem right. So we'll continue to follow the story. And up next, we're going to talk to the famous, much beloved NCAA gymnast and dancer, Risa Perez. Risa first competed for Arizona State. ASU experienced several years of turmoil before their coach was terminated, and that's coming up next. First, some updates. We are giving away 2 tickets to the American Cup mixed team meet in Las Vegas in March. All you have to do is follow us on Instagram, or for bonus points, follow us on Blue Sky or sign up for one of our newsletters, and you'll be entered into the contest. The deadline is on Wednesday next week. We have a new design in the store. It is a design so you can support Team Bronze. There's a rematch coming up soon, a Stanford UCLA meet, and so you can support both the athletes who were done dirty by the FIG judging and CAS by getting this shirt, perhaps, and showing everybody that you are for the athletes. You can check it out at gymcastic.com in the store. College and cocktails this week. Group therapy for gym nerds, as we like to call it. We're watching Oklahoma at Florida on ESPN2. Join us to vent, gush, and analyze. On Friday, before Valentine's Day at 6 p.m. Pacific, this week's cocktail is a 40 watch, and you can find all the details at gymcastic.com. Today, we're talking to Risa Perez. If there's one word to describe Risa Perez's gymnastics, it would probably be energy, from her spunky floor choreography, her unique beam elements, the front aerial to one arm back handspring back in the mid 2010s, to her ability to engage and interact with the crowd. Her gymnastics always stood out. She began her college career at Arizona State before transferring to Oregon State for her junior year in 2014. In 2016, she was the Pac-12 beam champion, hit 102 out of 110 total routines throughout her collegiate career. She also qualified as an individual for the 2015 NCAA championships. She's also the author of one of the most famous beautiful saves in all of college gymnastics, where she turned a fall into a beautiful side scale and danced out of it. So we're going to talk to her about her dance career and how that helped her in gymnastics, and her move from ASU to Oregon State, and the TikTok about her college experience that has gained lots of attention. Here's Risa. You made a TikTok that I had been waiting for someone to talk about the things you talked about for years, and I had asked other athletes if they wanted to talk about it, and no one had said yes. So can you talk about the response you've had to discussing your experiences at ASU?
Well, first of all, it's been, 12 years, It's been so long. So I didn't really think people cared anymore, because it's like old news. There's so much better things, out there in the world. But I just kind of made it because it was a trend that was on TikTok, and I just thought, like, oh, why not? I did have this experience, and it just fit the trend really well. And I didn't think it was gonna pop off kind of like how it did. But what was cool about it is it actually brought together kind of a lot of other athletes, and I got a really positive response to it. Like, every time I open TikTok, it's still people are liking it, commenting it, messaging me about it. So it's nice to see that people still do care about, gymnastics culture, and it's still relevant today. So
yep, it's very relevant. So can you just describe kind of the background that you came from? Because I think that will help people understand what your experience was like, putting it in reference when you went from your club gymnastics to college gymnastics. It was starkly different. So what was your club experience like?
My club experience was amazing. I had the best coaches. I stand by that. I had a very positive club experience, which I was completely ignorant to the fact that people were not having the same experience as me. Like I would go to, nationals, and I would see some coaches like yelling at kids, and I would just be like, "Oh, they must be having a bad day," or like, "Oh, like that kid must really act up a lot." Like I didn't think that I didn't know that the gymnastics culture was so toxic in so many gyms, because my coaches were so great. I was coached at GymCats in Henderson, Nevada. I always say Las Vegas, but there's two different. There's a location in Las Vegas and there's a location in Henderson. I was always at the Henderson one, and my coaches were Cassie Rice, Jill Preston, and Kim Snape, and they were so positive all the time. Their assignments were like super hard, like they were challenging, and it's not like we had a super lax childhood or anything. Like we still had the hard conditioning and the tough love coaching, but it wasn't abusive, it wasn't disrespectful, it wasn't anything that was like the stories I heard when I got to college. I literally was like, you what? Like I was like dumbfounded at like how some gyms operated. And through college, just hearing everybody else's stories, I was just like, wow, I have nothing to complain about, truly. Like I don't like one thing that I think is so, I would say, I guess, like pivotal about my transfer and like my college outcome, is because I had such good coaches in club. And this is why I think it's so important for you to enroll your child in gymnastics in a club with really caring, kind, conscientious, but also productive coaches, is so important, because that literally models your whole life, after, from any type of friendship, relationship. Like you're with these people for like 30 hours a week. They're literally raising you. You see them more than your parents most of the time. And so the way that they treat you is really, really telling on how you're going to have other relationships in your life, whether it's friendships or boys or, whatever.
And you were also able to do dance at the same time, which is so unusual, but you're not the only gymnast from GymCats to do that. How did that add to your experience or your overall perspective on gymnastics when you went to college?
We always had really good dance teachers. We always had like very high level experience with performing. So we started that pretty young. I would say I started ballet about 6 years old. Dancing was just always something I really loved. Cassie always wanted us to have the opportunity, so we would go to these dance conventions. It just like made our floor routines and our beam routines like explode. Like, and we loved it. Like it was like, oh, sorry, can't go to beam today, gotta go to dance. It was like we got out of things to go to dance.
One of the things that stood out to me is I remember hearing stories about the locker room at ASU with the coach that you had there. And I wanted to know about your experience as a dancer, because dancers are known for like, you have to change clothes. You're like you're being unclothed in front of your fellow dancers a lot. But that's not common in gymnastics. And what happened when you went to ASU?
Okay, so first 2 years of ASU were great. I loved my coaches. That's why I went there, right?
And John Spinney was still coaching and when you were there. Yep.
Yeah, so John Spinney was my coach my freshman year and my sophomore year. And I also had Tom Ward and Carrie Ward, which they are not married. They just coincidentally had the same last name. But I had them as my assistant coaches. And then sometimes like Maggie Ethier would drop in, and she's such a legend too. So that was fun. It was great. And I think, so John had announced to us my sophomore year, like in preseason, he said, I think this is my last year. Like, I've been doing this for a long time. And he kept saying that he was going to retire, but we just were like, no, you're not. The team had been like 21st. And in the past, like since I had been an ASU follower, they had kind of been between like 20th and like 28th. So we were on the front end of that. And it's like, oh, are you going to leave on a good year? Are you going to like keep trying to push for that top 15? Or, he always talked about nationals and getting someone back to nationals. So I think I just really thought he was going to stay. But yeah, at the end of the year, he left, and we all thought that Tom was going to be the head coach, and they were just going to bump everybody up, hire a new assistant coach. So we were excited to see what was going to happen. And then through we didn't even hear it from the university first. We heard it through like the message boards that were so prominent that this coach was coming in, and we didn't know much about her. But yeah, the locker room situation, few months later after we get there, there was a previous athlete who was not coming back for our junior year. So Rene goes in and she takes the name placard off of the front of the locker, which is just like a slide in. And she like claims that locker is hers, which is like, what? Like, this is our space. Like, this is an athlete space. Like, I have not seen that anywhere else. I've never heard of that be anywhere else. But this woman, she would change in front of us while we were changing. And like, yes, dance world, very normal, but never once did I see my dance teacher's tits. The way that gym is set up is like, so coaches can have their area and the athletes can have their area. And I get like if you have to go to the bathroom or something, or even there was like showers in there, like, why don't you just go into a curtained area? Like, most of the time I changed while I was in the bathroom, you just take your stuff with you, come back out, no big deal. And maybe I was just, I don't know, sheltered and prude at some points, thanks to just gymnastics in general. But she was just so open about it, and it was just so off-putting. And
can you talk the cortisone shot story?
Oh, yes, the cortisone shot story. Oh, this is the beginning of the end, I guess you could say, at my time at ASU. So my sophomore year, I taped my ankles pretty heavy. I never really taped my ankles unless it was preventative. Cassie always had us tape like our Achilles. You'll see most of her athletes still do it. Just as preventative to prevent from landing short. And because once you land short, that bone is just, that bruise is just the worst. And it takes forever to go away. So did preventative taping for like vault, whatever. But it was like a cast on floor. My ankles hurt so bad. I could not figure it out. And my trainer, I guess when Rene had gotten there, she had said like, okay, like give me a rundown of like injuries, blah, blah, blah. My ankle had come up in that conversation. But I was already home for the summer. I went home every summer to train with my club team and train back with Cassie. And I got adjusted after season, and I was back tumbling normal on it. She's like, so the trainer has told me like, you had ankle problems last year. We don't want to tape a lot, like waste time in meets, and we don't want to have like these issues. So I'm going to have you meet with her downstairs, and you can go set up an appointment to get a cortisone shot. I was like, a cortisone shot? Like, that's kind of serious. I'm 19. Like, you're not supposed to get that and like before you're 30, because it could degenerate the like tissues faster.
And that's not a coach's decision to make.
No, not a coach's decision to make. And also, like, I'm not having issues with it. She didn't even ask me like, oh, how's your ankle doing? No, she just said like, you need to go meet with the trainer and get a cortisone shot. And I was like, oh, my ankle's been like doing really well. I got it adjusted when I went home, and it's fine now. I haven't needed to tape it. I've been tumbling on it all summer. It's fine. And she like gets so mad. She's like, why don't you want to get it? And I was like, well, it's like kind of bad for you. And she's like, well, you were just talking about how much you love sour gummy worms, and those are bad for you, and you eat those all the time. And I was like, that's not the same thing. Like at all. Like, I think she realizes that like I'm not going to do it. Mm-hmm. She literally said, like verbatim, she said, do not come crying to me when your ankle hurts during season. I will not help you. That's verbatim. Like that's ingrained into my brain. And I was just like,
Had you had any practices yet?
Maybe like a couple, maybe like 2 or 3. John was also very big about like, hey, if you're gonna be here and if you don't want to work out, like, I don't care. Like, I can't tell you what to do. It would be wise if you came in to like keep your skills up and, you know, not feel like you're so far behind when when we start, you won't be as overwhelmed. But it was never like you have to be at gym, you know?
Yeah, because because literally the NCAA rules prevent the coaches from making you. They can only make you during a certain time, and otherwise it's called voluntary practice for a reason. So mandating it, number one, is violating NCAA rules.
Yeah. And also I was so stubborn. I mean, I was 19 that like at the time, if someone's saying like, you need to do this, and I know for a fact that I do not need to be doing that, and I'm going to make all the lineups that I made last year, I'm like, honestly, like, F off. Like, I did not care. So
also, like, I don't think that's stubborn. I think that's you knew what was right for you and your body, and you knew how you should be treated as a human being, and you weren't settling for not being treated that way. And that's a really good thing. It's a sign that you had like healthy, positive people around you, and you knew your own self-worth. That's good, not stubborn.
Allie, I was really close with her, and she was a walk-on. And she just like is the hardest worker. She's a physical therapist now. Like she's awesome. But I was really close with her. I lived with her my sophomore year. Anyway, I get to the gym. Allie gets to the gym at the same time. And I just like am venting to her kind of. I'm like, hey, isn't this so weird? I was like, I just got out of this meeting and she got like so mad at me for not wanting to get a cortisone shot. And Allie, you know, she has like a medical background. Her parents have like medical backgrounds. And she's like, cortisone shot for what? And I was like, well, like my ankle, because I taped my ankle so much last year. And she was like, oh. And she's like, well, does it like hurt you now? And I was like, no, I haven't taped it all summer. And she's like, oh, well, then why would you need a cortisone shot? I go, exactly. I go, okay, so I'm not like crazy, because I literally thought like, am I in the wrong here? Am I gonna like, is this like, am I damaging myself because like I'm not listening to this coach? Like, you know, whatever. She talks about how she has a PhD. So she calls like a big group meeting. It's our first like big group meeting with the whole team. And somehow I overlook where we're meeting at. First 2 years, we would meet in the ICA center at ASU, which is like where all the athletes go for like studying, for treatments, it's attached to like the football field. Like nobody's in the usual meeting spot where we are. I'm like 15 minutes early. I'm sitting there, but and I go, oh, maybe they're at the Weatherford Center. That has like a meeting room. So I get there and I'm like, oh, there they are, because I can hear like voices. So I push the door open and she immediately looks straight at me and she's like, get out, shoot, go. She shoos me out of the room. This lady shoos me like a freaking fly. She's like, get out, go. You were late. And I was like, oh yeah. I'm like trying to explain like, oh yeah, I went to the wrong spot. Like, and then I went to the gym and she's like, no, get out. And so I'm like, oh, and I like look at my team and they're all sitting like in a half circle. And they're all like just like looking like they don't know what to do because they're like, oh shit, you know? So I leave and I don't want to miss the meeting because my whole team is in there. She had previously told me in a phone call, like, oh, you were MVP. I want you to be like in a leadership position. So I'm like, okay, well, if I want to be in this leadership position, which like I do, you know, I love my school, I love my team. I'm going to just try my best to hear it. So I was like, maybe I can lay on the floor and like listen by the door. But there's like a garage on the other side and then like another door. So I go around and that door is actually like the tiniest bit cracked. Like I can feel air coming through it. And I'm like, okay, if I touch the door, if I open the door and try to get back in, she's going to yell at me again. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to listen to the meeting and like I'll go in and apologize afterwards. I'm sitting there, I listen to the whole meeting, and the whole meeting she's talking about your team culture shit. You guys all suck. You guys are like pretty and you guys are whores. That was basically the gist of the meeting. And I'm sitting outside the door like, what?
Wait, she called you whores?
I don't remember if she used the word whore, but it was something like slutty or whore. It was something to do with that. I just remember being like, did she just say that? She called like previous alumni and asked for their warm-ups and leotards back. She said, I didn't really want the leotards and the warm-ups back that they took, but she's like, I needed to see how your culture was with like respecting your sport. Does that make sense to you? Because like still as an adult, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I had like called, she was a senior my freshman year. So I had talked to her and she was like, oh yeah, that was so weird that she like called and asked me that. I'm not going to give her back my stuff. Like why would I give her my stuff? Like that's like the only thing I've left from my college gymnastics experience. Like we were allowed to take a Leo, and they're like vintage Leos. They're not even like Leos that we necessarily competed in. It would be like, oh, these are retired leotards. We can't wear them because the logo is wrong, or there's, the Pac-12 logo was updated and now we can't use it, or went from, it said Pac-10 on it or whatever. And so she was like, yeah, I'm not going to give her that. And I was like, yeah, no, don't give her that. And we're like, that's not our culture at all. Like the first thing you do when you step on campus, John would be like, okay, if you can't sing the full fight song with claps, then like you have 5 rope climbs. Like we were very, very well, like we knew like stepping into it, like, and I knew the fight song and he knew I knew the fight song and he would never ask me that question because he was like, well, Risa knows it. So I can't ask her that. Hey, you. But I was like, that's not our culture at all. And then we had which if you know ASU has a history of recruiting very pretty gymnasts. Why? Well, fundraisers like to give money to pretty people.
I'm so glad you're talking about this because people don't
talk about
this, and it's true.
It is a thing. It is a marketing strategy. You really think we're going to dance around in little tiny leotards and people aren't going to give us money because we look a certain way? Come on.
Yep.
Do you have a brain? Are you breathing? Are you alive? Like it's just biology. Like it's very, very obvious. Why is gymnastics such a big growing sport? Oh, and then there's a scandal. Oh, and then people are sexualizing it at such, people are sexualizing it. It doesn't help that every gym now uses European cut and shoves Leos up their butt. But we want to have longer legs. We want to have longer legs because the judges like the longer leg look and you score higher. That's our reasoning, right? That's what we grew up being told. Oh, you want to have a long looking leg because you want those pretty lines that if you're 4'11" and you're built like Shawn Johnson, you might not have those natural those natural lines. You have to make those natural lines.
Pretty lines actually means skinny. Yes. Right.
Yeah. And that's that's a whole other thing.
Do you think you know more about gymnastics than all of your friends? Well, now you can prove it. We are launching GymCastic Games, and you can invite your friends to play together with you. We have a weekly Gymternet news quiz, so you can prove you're the most informed gym nerd in the universe. We have a Gymdle, finally a crossword that understands what your Chenko means and recognizes it as a word. We have a word search game. All the games are pulled from gymnastics history, current events, and the GymCastic universe. It's free for Club Gym Nerd members, and we can't wait to hear all of your feedback. We hope you guys like it. Check it out at gymcastic.com.
And I understand, like, well, gymnasts, right? People who are gymnasts or people who are judges, they understand lines as like, oh, you're hitting the handstand,
right?
Right.
Your joints are in a line. That is what
you are in alignment. Yeah.
Yes.
You're in alignment. Everybody else is like, oh, it's like how pretty it looks when it goes up and it's, you're elongated and whatever. Girl, I'm 4'11" now, but like when I was in college, like I graduated high school at 4'9". Like I grew in college and then I grew after college.
Wow, you grew even more after college.
I did. I was actually really excited. I thought I was gonna hit 5 foot. I didn't, but I'm just right under it. I can like I could breathe a little bit
and get it right up there. Okay.
Yeah, if I see like a chiropractor and then I like get measured, I'm like 5 foot. But then like, it goes back down.
It's so interesting how people how people grow and like how people do with like injuries, especially based on when they get their period. And I like one of the things I remember Amy Borman saying about coaching Simone Biles is like she had a normal puberty. So she got her period at a normal time and all of that stuff. And she thought that like that was one of the reasons like that she knew she was healthy and she didn't get injured because, you know, she had all that. Did you also have that in a normal, or what's normal for your family? No?
No. My sisters, there's 3 girls in our family, well, 4 including my mom. But my mom said she was like 14. My sisters were like 12, 13, 14. I was 18. I've always known that I'm like smaller than my peers, like because I went to normal public school and stuff, so it's not like
gym you're like hello, yeah,
yeah. Like I knew I was short, but I've been short my whole life, and my mom is also 4'10" and a half. So my dad is 5'6", so I knew like height wasn't necessarily on my side. But my siblings are not as small as me by any means, and they didn't really do gymnastics. Like my sister did for a little bit, but she started when she was like 9. She was done by the time she was like 16. She was like a level 7. So like. Hers was everyone else's was like normal in my family, and then there was like me who was graduating high school at 4'9", wearing like 4-inch heels because I just felt like I needed to be just a little bit taller. I just like these huge platform heels like graduation.
It makes sense though that you grew more after college, because it's like years after your period starts that everything finishes too, and
yeah.
And also, God, it must have been horrible getting used to having a period for the first time when you're in college and competing on TV. Oh my God.
It was so annoying. And it was so annoying because it was like, I feel like everybody else just has like, they already know, you know?
Yeah, how it works and when you have to wear more and when you change your tampon and yeah.
Yeah, but like honestly, like I was so, like I do have older siblings and I had so many friends that had already kind of gone through it. Like, I don't even think I told my mom when I like actually got it. Like I was just like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. Like, let's go. Like I got things to do. I don't care. I used to get like really, really bad cramps and stuff. And what's so weird is now that I've had like 8 million kids, I don't get them anymore. So
you don't have cramps?
No, and I think it's because they like butchered my first I have to get C-sections because this is also really interesting.
Yes.
Also really interesting that I think that's like women's health. But because I was so behind in development and because I did so much like pounding on my body, like I always competed floor. I always competed. Well, I didn't always compete vault, but I always trained it.
Mm-hmm.
I really think it was like more floor. And then I was also dancing on top of that, like dancing on concrete and those hardwood floors. Terrible for your body. My hips, most hips, like when you go through puberty, they rotate out, like they kind of butterfly out. And you get like a hip shape. And that is like very normal and that is supposed to happen. So when you're older and you have children, there's room to pass the child through.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mine never did that. Turns out I had hip dysplasia my whole life. I just thought I was like really flexible because I worked really hard. And it turns out it's just my bone structure.
It's just like... There was nothing there to stop it.
No, literally, there was not like they're literally like the X-rays are crazy. They're so tight. They're literally almost flat. And I'm like, oh, is that why I can still do this? They're like, yeah. I'm like, oh. I ended up getting a hip replacement in February.
Oh wow!
Last year, yeah, so almost a year ago, I got a hip replacement. And I wish I did it earlier. But basically, my labrum had torn in like 2021, and because there was no place to like reattach it. They were like, oh, you could do this really extensive surgery where you like cut the bones and you move it down and then you drill it back in and it's like a year recovery. And I like have small kids. I'm like, I don't want to do that, you know, and I'm not done having kids. So like, I don't want to do that. And then I talked to a specialist about it and he was like, you don't even qualify for the surgery because there's not enough bone to use. He's like, you're going to end up having to get a hip replacement in like 5 years. So I was like, you know what? Let's just do the hip replacement now. Let's just do it. And it's been great. It's honestly been the best decision. I don't feel pain anymore because there's no bone there anymore. So it's great. Everything has been removed.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Just so metal there. It's fine.
Did they say that it was because of your late development? It was just your hormones didn't work right to rotate, or?
Yeah. So because I went through it so slow and the pounding, my hips never rotated out, and I mentioned this to him and he's like, oh, I'm going to talk to Andrew about that. Because I know his wife had like something similar. And it's like the same thing. She had the same issue. So we have to get C-sections for every kid that we have. But like before I had my daughter, because my son's birth experience was like super traumatic.
Was he the first one?
Yeah. He's
so did they know before your surgery about your hips, or did they find out like mid? Oh God.
Yeah. So it was. Yeah. So they make you like try to like have a baby normal, right? And my husband's like 5'9", and my mom said all of us were kind of in that like 6-7 pound range. So I was like, okay, like I could probably do that. My mom had all C-sections though too, which should have been like a red flag in my head. And I had been told like, oh, gymnasts and dancers are actually like pretty good because their pelvic floors are so strong from tumbling. Not true. If they don't develop at the right time, if you're a normal size, I guess like, yeah, you could. But so my son's, that was like awful. And then before we had my daughter, I was like, okay, can I have a kid or do I have to get C-sections? Because if I have to get surgery, like I'm at peace with it, but I'm really mad with how the first one went. Like it took me like years to be okay with it.
Yeah.
And to even be like, okay, let's have another one.
It's traumatic. It's a legit trauma. Yeah.
It is. And like no one was listening. It was at a military hospital, which like even worse. I got it measured by this orthopedic surgeon and she was a ballerina growing up and she gave so much insight. I love when other dancers and gymnasts become these like doctors that help us because they understand our body. So yeah, she did x-rays and she like measured my hip width and like the bones and stuff. And she's like, yeah, you can like birth a 5-pounder. And I was like, yeah, my son was 8. So that's not a thing.
Oh, that's a big baby. Yeah.
He was a big baby. My daughter was less. She was like 6 pounds, but still, like I was like, I'm not putting myself through that when I could just get a spinal tap and like chill,
Yeah, seriously. Earlier you mentioned the message boards, and the message boards were like before social media was what is now. The message boards were where you got all of your information. Everyone was on there. Every single coach, every single fan, all information would come to the message boards first. And so you were accused of something when you were never on the message boards. Can you tell me what happened?
Yes. Okay. So this correlates with the cortisone shot. There had been a thread posted about, oh yeah, we know Rene Lyst is going to ASU. We're excited to see how ASU does. Arkansas was just coming off of like some pretty good seasons, like some nationals, some history making years, whatever. So excited to see what she's going to do. Then some people added like, oh yeah, I know some gymnasts from there. They're excited or, whatever. And then someone writes this huge paragraph and it's like, the gist of it was Risa's unhappy because Renee's making them get like cortisone shots and they don't want it. And it was just very specific. And I hadn't talked about that story to anyone else besides my friend Allie. And Allie's not on the boards. Like she doesn't care about that. In this second meeting, I'm just feeling so grateful that I get to be in the room this time. And she's talking about things that are going to go on during the year. And then all of a sudden she stops and she's like, but like before we address this, like we need to talk about this. And she opens up a piece of paper. She reads this message board. And in the message, it's talking about a party. The gymnasts were talking about it at this party with men's gymnastics. And that's how I heard this story or whatever. And so I'm confused because none of us talked to men gymnasts because they're like a club team. They were always really supportive of like the women's team, but like we didn't really go to their stuff. They were off campus, like far away. So you had to have a car if you wanted to go like watch their meets. But then that walk-on girl who was in the bathroom, I guess, when I was telling Allie about it, I don't even want to call her a walk-on. She's like a tryout girl. She was dating somebody on that men's club gymnastics team. They went to a party. She said this stuff that she heard me telling, ranting to Allie about. It escalates super fast. She wouldn't let me talk, of course. I was like, I didn't even know what to say. I'm freaking 19 years old and you're like throwing these things at me. Anyway, it gets to the point where she just says, you know what, Risa, if you don't want to be here, I will sign any paper you want. You don't have to be here. I feel like I got up and left right then and there. The way that ASU works is they have like a women's director for like the sports, and then they have like the head athletic director. And I'm so mad. I just go straight to the athletic director and I said, I need a meeting with, I think his name is Ray Anderson. I need a meeting with Ray Anderson. She's like, well, he's really busy for the next 2 weeks. And I said, I need to talk to him tomorrow. She's like, it's really early, but can you make like a 8:45? Can you be here by 8:45? Like a 9 a.m. meeting? And I said, yeah, I can do that. I'm walking downstairs back to my car. I call my dad. I said, hey, this is going on. I need to transfer, or I'm going to stay here and I'm going to end up quitting, like out of just being pissed off because I'm impulsive. It just sucks because I loved everything about it and I didn't want to go anywhere else. But I just really felt like I had no choice. She was definitely the type to like retaliate against anything from that point on. So I just felt like, all right, she's clearly looking for things because I didn't want to get the cortisone shot. She was mad that I wasn't working out at the gym. She was mad that I was taking classes and I was at home, even though I was doing fine in my classes. And John always let us do that. She threatened to pull my compensation for being in school, which is like a total NCAA no-no.
Violation.
Yeah. And like, all I had to do was call compliance and be like, hey, can she do this? And they would have been like, no, stay where you're at. And I would have been like, okay, suck it, you know?
So what happened when you did tell the AD?
45 minutes, I'm like trying to let him know like all these things are happening. I'm telling him things that have happened to my teammates. I'm saying the locker room thing. I'm telling him literally everything. And he kind of just doesn't, I don't want to say he doesn't care, but he's kind of just saying like it kind of seemed like he was like, okay, this girl is just like trying to get out of her, commitment here. Like he's not really budging. He's not really giving me any like, wow, I can't believe she did that. Or like, are you sure that that's what it was? Like he's not asking follow-ups. He's just listening to it. And then when I tell him about how she says, I'll sign whatever paper you want, whatever. He like took a really deep breath in because he was standing. I remember he was looking out his window and he like crossed his arms and he let like a huge sigh out. And he was like, and he was like, well, I guess if that's what coach said, then I have to listen to it. And he was mad. And I said, yeah. And she said it in front of like the athletic trainer. She said it in front of my whole team. She said it in front of the other coaches. And he's like, are you sure she said it in front of everybody? I said, yeah, we were in a team meeting. She said it in front of everybody. And he said, all right, well, I'll get that paperwork through as fast as I can, like, this afternoon or whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm entering the portal. Like, and I was like, I remember like shaking after that. Like, I was like, I was shaking for like an hour after. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Obviously, I had to like talk to Rene one more time and be like, yeah, I'm like going to try and transfer. Or I'm going to seek out like other schools or whatever. And then I had to tell my teammates. And that was really sad. I couldn't like call them one by one and be like, hey, this is going on. But I did send like a group text and I just said like, this is what's happening. Like, I love you guys. Like, if I were to transfer, like if you need to transfer, like you should probably try to do it like right now. But a lot of them had come from such toxic club gyms that this was nothing new. This was fine for them. If you grew up with those toxic relationships and those power struggles and toxic coaching, then you're not going to recognize that. You're just going to be like, oh, that's a coach, And
you were really like the canary in the coal mine because things would get worse with not just the team, but with the alumni. The alumni were trying to get Rene fired, and then eventually she was fired. What was your experience then when you transferred to Oregon State? How was it different? How was the team culture? How was the coaching?
Yeah. So, I mean, luckily, I was only really coached by Rene and her little squad for a couple weeks, and it wasn't even official practices. So I never really had to endure the craziness that my previous teammates had to endure. The horror stories I hear from that is just so sad, especially the seniors, because they just didn't deserve to end their careers like that. And I think some of them have ended on the note of like, I hate gymnastics, and that's heartbreaking because you literally spend your whole life in it. But I will say that when I transferred, even going from like how John coached us to how Tanya and Michael coached, that was like a big adjustment. Like Tanya will agree with me. I struggled my junior year only because John was so much like, less is more. Like, you're going to be in my lineup no matter what. You could fall every day of the week and I'm still putting you on beam on, Saturday night. His belief was so big in me that I just believed him. And I think that's like the mental side of gymnastics. And then at Oregon State, it was very much like, no, you have to make your assignments. You have to do what everybody else is doing, and you have to do them better if you want to make a lineup. I struggled with that concept of like, oh, you're not just automatically in a lineup because you're a good performer. Like, you actually have to like do it. You have to do the assignments. And that's just hard to get your mind to switch back into that. And also getting there and having like someone was on like Canada's national team, and there were girls there that I remember like competing with growing up that were like in region 1 or they were in region 2, and they were like on podiums with me, and I was like, it was always like we were kind of like this, like at nationals. Like, I remember certain athletes and being like, oh, like I don't know if I'm like that good, or like I was looking at my body because my body wasn't in the best shape. I was super stressed. I had really high cortisol levels. I was just very comparative. When they're figuring out all the compliance stuff, like even once after you sign for your scholarship, there's still like a waiting period where compliance has to like clear you for degree credits and all these things. I was allowed to stretch and like watch, but it was end of September and these girls were doing full out routines already, full out tumbling passes. And I was like, oh, like, I just went through a crazy time. I have not done any of this in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I never competed in like an exhibition meet. Like, they always do orange and black. I didn't compete in it my junior year just because I wasn't ready. But she had me warm up. She had me warm up my junior year. She was like, I don't want to push you for this too fast. We don't need to like risk your body. She's like, I really want you in my floor lineups and my beam lineups because I think Gil would love to watch your routines and stuff. She's like, I really want you there. So we're not going to push for orange, black, but like, I need you to be ready by January. And that kind of like gave me the confidence of like, oh, she wants me in the lineup. Like, okay, cool. Like, it's not just like, oh, we have a scholarship for you. Here it is. Like, good luck this year. She really cared. And she's an amazing, Tanya was an amazing performer back in her day too.
Yeah.
So I think that we really bonded over that. And that was like something that I still like really cherish. Like, we both have that little artsy side to us, and we clicked on that aspect really well. And she was just so passionate. She still is. She's still so passionate for the sport that it makes you love the sport. And then like now that I'm like removed from it, and I remember those pep talks and I remember those like before meet talks, and like if I had to give a talk like before, I would feel the same way. Like, she was like, I would do anything to do this sport again. And like, that's how I feel. Like, oh, I would do anything to compete one more time. She was so passionate about it. She kind of gives she gives a little bit away, to everybody for that. So I'm really big on like, this is my phase of life right now. It's not my phase of life forever, but this is what it is. And then I'm going to move on to this phase of my life. And I'm very fine with like living it out. Like right now, I just say like, oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom. And that's really hard for me to like grasp sometimes because we're so like, okay, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? That I've gone back to school twice to get master's degrees in maybe a profession that I don't even, will I go back to it? I don't know. Like, maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know. I can't just stay home with my kids. And that's so hard. It's a full-time job, It's just a very different mindset. And even though like I'm having another one, like literally in like 3 months,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I could get a job for like 3 months. Like it's so completely unrealistic. I absolutely cannot. But will I go on and like job search just for funsies? Yeah. Or I'm like, oh, I could go back to coaching. And I'm like, no, you can't, Risa. Like, no, like, you cannot.
Yeah.
You're not in that phase of life. But I do remember having a conversation with a teammate or two teammates. And we were eating and I was tired and I was just ranting about how much I hated gymnastics and how I'm only doing it so I can go to college for free and like make my parents happy. And I don't care about competing and I don't care, which is not true. I always cared about competing. I loved competing. I think that's what kept me in the sport for so long was I loved competing. It was always just like that performative aspect that's what I've always loved. And I remember the look on their faces were like, did she just say that? They were like, why is this girl here? I think about that conversation all the time because it's just so not true, like at all. That's like not that's not who I am at all. But I was just so like, I think traumatized is like a dramatic word in this case, but I was so just like burned out from like what I had just experienced, and then the bouncing around trying to figure out where you're going, and like, yeah, it was wild. But overall, very positive. I love gymnastics. I still love it. I always said like, I don't know if I'd put my kids in it, but I have one who is literally me. Didn't even try to like enforce that, but she climbs on everything. She tried jumping off of our island. She has a bar now in the living room because she just loves it. She wants to do it. And she's like freakishly good at everything. And she's freakishly strong. And she's tiny, like tiny. Like she's just gonna, it's definitely the sport for her. So we're probably gonna pursue that until she doesn't want to do it anymore. But I feel like she's anything like me, she's gonna be obsessed with it. So cross my fingers.
Yeah. I love that you were able to get to a place where like you had a good experience. You went somewhere and you were like, oh, this isn't how you treat people. I'm leaving. And then found another place that you were able to have a good experience, and that overall your takeaway from gymnastics is positive.
There's obviously been athletes who have come from GymCats that have been in one spot. No matter the situation, I think the ability that we have to just say like, I'm not stuck here. Like I can go. I think we just have that confidence. And like I said, that comes from good club coaches, and also good parenting. Parenting is interesting these days. I hear a lot of my coaching friends that were like NCAA champions, or, you know, they went to top rated schools, or they're coaching now. And they're like, honestly, it's not necessarily the kids, it's the parents. Parents have like a big role. And I feel like our parents were very like, oh, we're just going to let the coach. We're going to, you know, we're going to support our kids and whatever. And maybe some were like a little too standoffish, like when you have like the abusive coaching side. But like, I think parenting makes just like the biggest difference too, in conjunction with good club coaches. So yeah, if you are at a gym with not so great club coaches, or they're being really derogatory towards your kids, and your kids are telling you things and you're like, oh well. It's also it's your fault too.
Thank you so much for sharing all of this.
Sorry it was so jumpy. I'm just all over the place.
No, not at all. No, that was great. And like I like that we, you know, found out more about like, you know, pelvic issues that happen when I'm like no idea about that. So like I'm sure there's gonna be a bunch of gymnasts now who are gonna be like, that happened to me too. So but yeah, it's like very interesting, all the things and how they're intersected. I want to thank Risa so much for being here. It was so fun to talk to her, and please go follow her on TikTok. Links are in the show notes. We had a very special guest on College and Mocktails this past week. We had world European medalist from Team GB and also current Cal gymnast Ondine Achampong. She talked about what it was like finding out that her, you know, coaches had taken another job at Clemson, what it's like transitioning, if she ever thought about going to Clemson after her coaches went there, and what she thinks about judging as a judge, a British judge in NCAA. So you can stay tuned after this episode for a little teaser, and you can hear what we discussed on Saturday. And she gave some insights about the Cal and Clemson meet that we really enjoyed. If you want to listen to the full episode, of course, it's at gymcastic.com, link in the show notes. Remember that this week, College and Cocktails is Oklahoma at Florida on ESPN2. We'll start around 6 p.m. on Friday the 13th, before Valentine's Day. This week's cocktail is 40 Watch, and we'll see you later this week for our Fantasy Update podcast, and then College and Cocktails. Until then, remember to take off on gay, split on rights. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you then.
Did you know that we do an extra podcast every week called College and Cocktails, where we pick one college meet, and then Jessica forces me to have a cocktail that I would obviously never want of my own volition. And then we talk about, you know, who was overscored and how mad we are / still love it. And you should join us. Here's a little sample. How was it for you when you heard that your coaches were now at Clemson, and we just watched them coaching at Clemson, when they told you guys they took the job?
It was rough, to be honest. We didn't know anything. Like, we were completely just like not kept in the dark, but it felt like when we got told, a lot of people had somehow known. So I found out at like 3 a.m. It was like the night before one of my finals, 3 a.m. Me and my roommate were up like studying, and my dad called me, and I was like, why is he calling me? He never calls me. And then I picked up and I was like, are you okay? And I was like, because we'd heard about, obviously, Clemson's coach went, and then we were like, oh, who's going to be the coach? And then someone was like, can you imagine if Justin and Liz went? And I was like, no, they just wouldn't. Like, and then my dad called, and I was like, like, there's no other reason I could think of why he was calling me. And he was like, yeah, they're gone. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then we got told on a Zoom the next day, and they were like, yeah, we've taken the job at Clemson. And then it was just like, we can't talk to you now. Okay, go Bears. Yeah. And we were like, yeah, it was a rough one.
So is that an NCAA rule? Because then they're hired at Clemson, so they're like, it would be a violation if they can't.
They just can't talk to you after. So it was literally like a 10-minute Zoom call. Yeah. They told us, and they were like, go Bears, end of Zoom call. And we were like, oh, okay. But it was rough.
If you enjoyed that sample, you can get more by joining Club Gym Nerd at gymcastic.com.